From the Pep Radio newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. MSNBC is reporting that LGBTQ plus advocacy organizations have reported a flood of calls and chats to their crisis communication hotlines after Donald Trump won the election last week, following a campaign that was rife with anti-trans attacks. The Trevor Project, a nonprofit that provides mental health crisis services to the LGBTQ people, reported a nearly 700% increase in reach outs to its crisis services on November 6th, the day after the election. The organization said it saw significantly high outreach from LGBTQ young people needing support in direct response to election results. 1/3 of those who contacted its crisis services after the election identified themselves as Black, Indigenous, or people of color, the organization said. The day after the election, the Washington Post that reported that the Rainbow Youth Project, a nonprofit advocacy group for LGBTQ plus youth, had received more calls in the first 6 days of November than it receives in an average month. If you are an LGBTQ young person in crisis, feeling suicidal, or in need of a safe and judgment-free place to talk, call the Trevor Lifeline now at 1-866-488-7386. That number again is 1-866-488-7386. Or the Rainbow Youth Project at 1-317-643-4888. Once again, that's 1-317-643-4888. Newsweek is reporting that during an interview with Semafor published on Friday, Pennsylvania US Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat, suggested that Republicans' messaging around transgender rights may have helped propel the former president back into the White House. The GOP spent millions of dollars on advertisements attacking transgender rights, which aired in Pennsylvania and other key swing states in the weeks leading up to Tuesday's election. The ads often included a clip of Vice President Kamala Harris saying during her 2020 presidential campaign that she supported gender-affirming medical treatment for transgender people in prison. The tagline at the end was "Kamala is for they, them, President Trump is for you." Fetterman, who has been an advocate for the transgender community since being elected to Congress in 2022, told Semafor that while he refuses to throw members of the gay or trans communities under the bus, the messaging around LGBTQ plus issues may have hurt Democrats this election cycle. And it's undeniable that Republicans created a really powerful message. She's for they, them, and Trump is for you, the senator added. That kept hitting again and again and again and again for tens of millions of dollars. It had an earworm quality, and I'm not surprised that that resonated, according to, again, Senator John Fetterman. Republicans have ramped up attacks on LGBTQ plus policies in recent years, particularly at the state and local level, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. 532 anti-LGBTQ plus bills were filed across the United States in 2024 alone. And now for a moment of editorial commentary. That report from Newsweek continued by saying that a handful of Democrats suggested that their party's messaging on transgender issues could have cost them votes in the election. New York Representative Tom Suozzi told the New York Times on Wednesday, "The Democrats have to stop pandering to the far left. I don't want to discriminate against anybody, but I don't think biological boys should be playing in girls' sports." Again, according to New York Representative Tom Suozzi. Massachusetts Representative Seth Moulton echoed Suozzi's while speaking to the Times on Thursday, saying Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. "I have 2 little girls," Moulton added. "I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that." Moulton's comments sparked immense backlash from his fellow Massachusetts Democrats. According to the Boston Globe, a top aide to Moulton, resigned on Thursday after the comments. Now, I would like to chastise New York Representative Tom Suozzi. First, the expression biological boys is a hateful euphemism that negates any comments that you make about not wanting to discriminate. Don't take my word for it. According to the American Psychological Association, quote, the preferred term for this is sex assigned at birth, because many people consider biological sex to be an offensive term at this point. Furthermore, Tom, I would not call inclusion of the LGBTQ plus community pandering to the far left. Although society has turned our lives into political issues, our existence is neither left nor right. It is hardly far left to support the marginalized and vulnerable. Perhaps if the Democrats weren't so busy lining up A-list stars to come to rallies and focused more on encouraging the blue-collar workers in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, the Democrats might not be sitting on the sidelines licking their wounds. As for Seth Moulton's comments, I don't think he understands why his comments are offensive, which is a sign that he has a lot to learn about the LGBTQ plus community. You are free to say whatever you want. However, you must be prepared for backlash from your colleagues and others when you say something deliberately offensive. Your daughters wouldn't be competing against, quote, boys or former boys. Young athletes who are on hormonal therapy to affirm their gender do not have some sort of anatomical advantage. Again, don't take my word for it. According to a study from the Canada Centre for Ethics, trans women do not have a biological advantage over cisgender women in elite sports due to their testosterone levels. The study, based on an in-depth review of scientific literature published between the years 2011 and 2021 regarding trans women in elite level sports, claims that biomedical factors do not pose any threat to cis athletes, stating that, quote, there is no clear biological advantage of trans women athletes over cisgender women athletes. If the young cisgender athletes have a problem with transgender athletes, perhaps they could demonstrate via practice exercises to show that the cisgender athletes are in no danger of being hurt. As Dr. Joshua Semafor explained to the ACLU, a person's genetic makeup and reproductive anatomy aren't indicative of athletic performance. For trans women athletes meeting NCAA standards, there is no inherent reason to treat their physiological characteristics differently. If we use the Olympics as a guide, two whether transgender athletes have advantages over their cisgender counterparts, consider this. Transgender women athletes are also not dominant and never have been. Since the first policy for transgender athletes at Olympic level was introduced in 2003, over 63,000 athletes have become Olympians. Of these, there have only been 2 transgender women in the Olympics during this time, and only 1 competed in Tokyo 2020 and lost to a cisgender woman, while the other was a simple reserve. Rather than attacking the transgender and gender non-conforming community, both Democrats and Republicans need to accept that everyone's genetic makeup is different. Cisgender, heterosexual males and females may be the norm, but that does not mean that the rights of the LGBTQ plus community should be diminished. That's the news at this hour. Now back to more music on PEP Radio.